In a world where A-Dub and E-Ray have left their mics, a man emerges from Bill and Ted's phone booth that also kind of looks like a DeLorean to give the people what they didn't even know they needed. He captivates the masses with his stories of quantum leaping from one wrestling era to another, comparing and contrasting the wrestling world of old with the wrestling world of today in only the way he can. Ladies and gentlemen, Let Me Book the Territory proudly presents The B.A. Show, featuring Sean from Fourth Rope Wrestling, powered by the Embrace the Turn Up Network.
Hey, yo. This is episode 12 of The B.A. Show. It is I in the building, BADVIC, back at ya, aka Black IRS, aka the Beef of the East, B.A. Bigelow, and for tonight, aka B.A. Meanie. Yes, what does that mean, guys? We'll hear it shortly, but first and foremost, gotta say what's up, see how my guy is doing, yours too, your wise man, but mine's first, our producer of this show, Mr. Glock Lesnar himself. Make sure he stays strapped, stay ready so he don't gotta get ready. It's the homie Sean. What's going on, my brody?
Ooh, not much, man. Yeah, you know we're straight strapped. We got the Cash Wheeler on us today. All right, we going insane.
Hey,
we going insane on it. But I always go by the wise man, so that's a pretty good public figure in wrestling. But he also has to do with what we got today, which your name is B.A. Meanie. Can you go into a little detail about that?
Yeah, I think we kind of alluding to it pretty strongly here as far as where we going. So since the wise man said this is more his name, his good nature, we're going back to the wise man's one of his origin stories. The wise man is a very complex character. If we're going to talk about wrestling as a universe, Paul Heyman is probably the most complex person in said universe as far as the things he's done, the people he's intertwined with. Everybody is at least 4 to 6 degrees separated from Paul Heyman. If you participate in professional wrestling, indies, top of the game, what have been. So we wanted to tonight. I had to wash the disgusting taste out of my mouth from that Vince Russo nonsense last time we recorded here on this beautiful podcast. And I had to tell you guys, it's time to get y'all heard the man. Y'all know what time it is. It's time to go back in the Wayback Machine to the OG first pay-per-view event for Extreme Championship Wrestling, Barely Legal 1997. Sean.
Great year.
Yes. Think somebody was born in that year in this here podcast. You guys do the math out there on that one. Not gonna bury that lead, but yeah, man, fucking Barely Legal, bro. This is, ooh, man. If y'all know BA, this is his wheelhouse as a kid, as far as like wrestling, watching it, and ECW was some stuff as far as not being regularly available for all reasons when you go back and watch this stuff. When you think about what was happening at the time, like when we think about a Nightmare on East 9th Street episode of the BA show talking about SummerSlam 1996, and you go watch this show and think about what that product was, and you see this, yeah, man, it's like a whole nother dimension of wrestling. Not even reality. Like we in a whole nother galaxy. So is this your first time taking in the OG Barely Legal 97, Sean?
As a full, absolutely. I've never went back. And then I do want to point out something that we didn't say. We did not consume the Peacock version.
Yes.
For this review.
Thank you. That's important.
So So if anybody goes back and watches the Peacock version, it's going to be a little different than what we viewed. If you want to go, it's publicly archived on the internet.
Yes.
But we watched the original broadcast of ECW Barely Legal 97.
Yeah.
And yes, this is my first intake of original ECW in its entirety.
That's beautiful.
In its fullness. I've never seen a full episode, and I've never watched a full pay-per-view. At that, I've never watched an uncut one that was an original broadcast.
That's beautiful to hear. From just my old man ears to your young man heart there. As far as this is the like, because you've probably only seen it like highlights on Peacock, I'm imagining, and if y'all ever watched this on Peacock, I'm assuming if you're listening to us, you've seen ECW on there. That is fucking garbage, y'all. It's they play terrible theme songs. Shout out to the last episode when we were going off about Ernest the Cat Miller, and I forget who else's theme music on that godforsaken episode.
DDP,
yeah,
and
the
all
Nirvana,
that.
Can't Be Nirvana,
the Nirvana shit,
out of control. So when you go back and watch ECW wrestling, because Paul Heyman is Mr. Ask for Forgiveness, never for forgiven. Just used a bunch of licensed music as these guys' theme songs on the live episodes. And when you go back and watch the OG ones, you get why the vibes were so real. Like watching a Sandman walk out to Enter Sandman, and listening or watching RVD come out to his OG theme music that they don't play on the network. They play his one of a kind stuff. So it's little stuff like that, man, that just puts shit over like this for me in my mind. And then also the fact that this is not in 1080p, it took me right back to 1997. I'm like, man, this is garbage, and I can barely see anything on some of these little expanded shots. But I'm like, you know what? I kind of don't want it any other way. I don't want that clean ass version that you will see on the Peacock. So yeah, bro.
Hell yeah.
So as I said, first pay-per-view for ECW. Paul Heyman opened up ECW stores, and he got involved directly in 1994, 1995-ish. And if y'all remember on the New Blood Rising episode, I discussed Shane Douglas. And Shane Douglas was the, and you hear him say it a couple times on this pay-per-view, he's the pioneer of Extreme. He made this what it was at the time by shitting on, at the time, the NWA Championship and Eastern Championship Wrestling. Literally threw it on the ground like it was garbage. Y'all thought y'all were mad when Tyrus won the title. I can only imagine what y'all would have said if he did this in 2022. I'm talking about Tyrus throwing the NWA title down. So yeah, it's Shane Douglas starts it up, and then these guys have been more essentially an indie outfit is what they are. And if you've ever been to an indie show, it has all the vibes of that, but different in that, especially in this era of wrestling, you didn't see indies fighting for things like pay-per-views and things like that. But that was because they had the genius who's been there, done that. Mr. Paul Heyman, aka the Wise Man, knew what the vision was. Like, we got to get on pay-per-view. They were selling merch. Like, I don't know if y'all seen the many documentaries out there about ECW. Like, Bubba Ray was like the merch guy. It was so homegrown. And as a podcaster, and Sean fills me on this, I know he does. Like, we're very grassroots, and we're starting to make some noise in our industry. And when you start to Voltron it up, as you'll hear us constantly say here and on the main show, that's exactly what these guys are doing here. So not only like just the action, like watching it from that just creative mindset, like, man, these guys were putting on, like, this is a make or break night for their whole operation, and just know where this goes to eventually. I mean, it ends unceremoniously, unfortunately, as far as ECW, but they did some things, man. They did some things that never had been done before at that time. You gotta, even if you don't like the wrestling, that's a whole nother discussion. You gotta respect what they did as a business.
That's an understatement. If we're speaking respectfully,
Yes,
that's a whole ass understatement.
yeah.
Because the WWF basically stole ECW's idea. and took it.
Tell
like,
him.
if you remember that infamous promo,
Yes.
that Paul Heyman cut on Vince McMahon, and I think it was around at the end of the alliance and all that shit.
It was when
like
Paul Heyman was like on commentary
So-
exclusively, basically. It's working for the
Exactly.
man.
And so he cut a work shoot promo, how they like to say, on Vince McMahon,
Shooting more than
about how
working.
he stole all of exactly he stole all of his life's work. And he's right.
Yeah.
Because you take the entirety of ECW and what they did, and it's like half of the Attitude Era.
Yeah.
And then you can't tell me like what Paul U was doing over there wasn't fucking revolutionary, because most of the dudes that went from ECW somewhere else took the same gimmicks and got them over in WWE or WCW and elsewhere.
Yeah, man.
So the wrestling was great. The gimmicks were great. It was just financials to me.
Big time. And
that check, yeah.
Paulie was, they don't call him Paulie Dangerously, formerly in kayfabe, for no reason. That man was living on the edge as far as how he was funding this company. You even hear, like, when they have reunions to this day, Tommy Dreamer still is not a Paul Heyman guy, to say the least. But he respects the shit out of him for what he had to do for a Tommy Dreamer, for a Taz, for the Dudley Boys, for even Sandman or an RVD, even Raven. Like, these guys to be able to get like their misfit toy rub off of them from where they were at, whether it be WCW or WWF at the time, and show these other guys like, hey man, we can make money elsewhere. And that was unheard of at the time. We're in this very spoiled era in wrestling where, because we got AEW, and I'm guilty of it, can shit on it and not appreciate it, what they're trying to do. And we kind of forget, like, hey y'all, the WWE has a whole like 40-year head start on what AEW's kind of scratching the surface at. So we gotta be nice, but TK doesn't make it easy when he makes comments, and which is why it sends people like me after AEW. But that's a whole nother discussion I digress on right now. But for the sake of today's conversation, ECW, yeah, man. Paul Heyman, this is essentially what I didn't even plan on this as being. There's gonna be a lot of flowers thrown at this man this evening as we record this, because like I said, watching this with mid-30 eyes on it and the OG product, because I've gone back and watched those pre-cock pay-per-views trying to get the feels, and it just didn't do it. So my wise man being the wise man, finding this and knowing it's even publicly archived, and it makes sense because the WWE does not own these hard copies of it because they can't, because of the stuff going on in them as far as music that they don't want to pay for being in it. It's a beautiful mess, basically, is what I like to call it. But yeah, man, ECW, it's a whole different thing that. And they've done a good job of giving it its due and its flowers and documentaries out the wazoo about what they did. But I just really hope, because I think that as a wrestling fan, I forgot a lot about what this was. And to your point, how it intertwined a whole era of wrestling because of how we all at the time gravitated away from WCW and WWF. And we was all trying to seek this shit out. And anybody that was around in this time frame, kid or adult, knows that's a fucking fact, and you cannot deny it. So, with that being said, man,
that's a fact.
We get into the pay-per-view. As far as how pay-per-views in ECW usually open, or shows in general, it was usually a Dudley Boys or a Dudley Family promo of them shitting on the city of Philadelphia, in which this happens, of course, you know, Philly, ECW Arena, the Bingo Hall, as Jim Cornette and Jerry Lawler would coin it in the 90s, but that's where we at here. So you got Devon and Bubba Ray coming out there throwing the heavy F-bombs, and that's another thing you got to get used to watching ECW, especially it not being, again, on Peacock. You hear a very, very, very ruckus crowd. Shout out to Inaudible Ruckus. As far as the behavior happening, the chants, you have never heard these types of chants at a televised show. Maybe your indie shows would get some of this, but not like this. So we got them drawing some major heat. The Dudleys are about to get ready to have a tag team title match with the Eliminators, Perry Saturn and John Cronus.
Sheesh.
Yeah, man. As we always do, me and Sean, as we go through these watches on our own before we connect to give y'all our takes, I was asking him, I was like, did you know Perry Saturn was like in it like this? And he was like, tell him, Sean, so I don't want to take words out your mouth, man.
No. Perry Saturn, the first instance I've got of him was the Radicals. And so going forward from there, he got, a mop gimmick, I think, because I forget what he did wrong, but it was basically a punishment.
I know.
Can
I say it?
Yeah, let me hear it. I remember it, but I don't remember it. So enlighten me again.
So it was a Sunday Night Heat episode, and I forget the talent. I think it was a jobber of some nature. This wasn't anybody doing anything, but Saturn beat the shit out of this dude, like bad, cussing at him, really laying in some stiff shit on him, pause, and was like beating him up for real. And after that happened is when, because at first him and Marlena had like a whole thing, like she was his manager and Perry Saturn was like this wrestling machine basically, and like because those dudes all came in like that, the Radicals, him, Benoit, Guerrero, Malenko, those guys were their graps, as we say. And that's essentially what happened. But like Saturn kept going, that happened, and then from there, Vince did what he did. They went into the box of gimmicks and pulled out a mop that I forget. I think his name was Moppy. Am I correct?
Moppy,
yes,
yeah.
Okay.
It was Moppy. It was a fucking red mop with a smiley face on it, bro.
And it was very disgusting innuendo made around that.
It replaced Marlena, which is the wild part. Like,
Yep.
they took away his manager altogether and made him in love with the fucking mop.
Yep.
So that's the last that I know of Perry Saturn.
Wild.
So going back and seeing this dude absolutely hoop on the Dudleys in 97 was unreal. I mean, this dude is doing like contortionist moves in the air, fucking moonsaults off the middle and top rope, like all types of shit.
Yeah, and John Cronus is too, man. Like the dudes, John Cronus is built at 265 pounds. I think he's bigger than that, honestly, because he's tall and big like that. So I think he's more like 280 doing the type of stuff he was doing. Not small dudes.
Yeah, this man's an NFL lineman.
Yeah,
like, what the fuck?
Damn near. Like when Barry Corbin before he lost his weight, basically. Like it's that type of stuff happening.
Jesus.
And it didn't make any sense. And to give you some background on the Eliminators, they learned this style, if you can't tell. They're New Japan. They were over in Japan wrestling. That's where Heyman discovered them and brought them over here on the ECW scene. They came over just to do some shows, and the rest is history. They had a couple year run there, and then Saturn eventually leaves because Cronus gets hurt, and he doesn't feel Cronus is trying to get back, and then he ends up going to WCW when Raven's flock, the Raven's Nest, as it's called in ECW, the flock in WCW, when they all leave. So he follows the flock out, basically, and as Cronus kind of gets through his stuff, and he ends up tagging with New Jack at a certain point in time, becoming the Gangstanators. A whole vibe there. I'm sad we didn't get a New Jack match on this card too. I have to say that. Beat that.
Oh, we'll go into that one day. That's a whole.
We'll be sure next ECW pay per view we talk. We'll make sure that there's a funny New Jack match on there. This New Jack matches, they never really lasted long, and it was pure chaos when he came out with that shopping cart full of just fucking shit and just putting on Spot Fest in the middle of the ring with all this junk he just brought down to the ring. Amazing. Amazing, man. But yes, like I said, you got these two dudes going. The Dudleys have never changed who they are. They have always been very sound workers in the ring, in my opinion. I think that's the reason why they translated so well into WWE, because they were already kind of built for a WWE, like, I think, roster as far as the gimmick, as far as their behavior, take away a lot of the vulgarity, which they end up doing. It works, and that's why they work so well in WWE, in my opinion, bro.
You're right, and because I'm a Dudley Boys fan, so it works great. They changed the attire up. They took away the vulgarity. They cut it down to just 3 instead of a whole family.
I was going to ask you, were you familiar with the family already? Did you know about all those dudes?
I heard about it, the Dudley family in ECW. Never ever seen it. I'm not even going to lie to you. Never seen it. So this is my first time being exposed to it. Outside of Devon, Bubba, Spike, never.
So you never got the privilege of Big Dick Dudley?
Big Dick Dudley, never heard of him.
So nope. Wrong. Who was the other one? There's Big Dick Dudley. Joel Gertner, the stud muffin. You never heard of Joel Gertner?
Nope.
Oh man, he's a character. When we go back through our ECW watches, Joel Gertner, the stud muffin, when he's wearing a neck brace and the sparkly jacket and the bow tie with no shirt on and the hairy chest, comedy. Straight comedy. He's hilarious. And I forget there's some other Dudleys out there that we don't see on this particular show, but we've seen some other Dudleys ushered in and out in the past. But yeah, like the gimmick, the Dudley gimmick origin story is like, I compare it to how like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like origin stories like dark, and the comic books are like fucking like violent. Dudley Boys. And then like when they got brought to the mainstream, they had to dumb it down for the kids, just like the Turtles. Great analogy. Didn't even think about that. But yeah, they have, like I said, fire ass match. A great way to open up pay-per-view. Like I said, the Dudleys typically opened up anything that was there going to be big eyes on ECW for, because of the heat and reaction they would draw from the crowd, and they get everybody immediately plugged into it. And that's what's my biggest takeaway. Because I always wondered that, I'm like, why do they always have the Dudleys come out first? And understanding the product more and how you want to keep eyes on it and people not wandering around your arena, that's how you do it. You got somebody there calling out the fans, big shit talking, and you're going to have people there waiting to see if this dude's going to get his ass whooped or not. And it works. And that's more to the genius of the wise men, in my opinion. Thoughts? Any other thoughts on this match for the most part?
The Eliminator's finisher is sick as shit.
Total elimination.
Total elimination, and the way Joey Styles sells that shit.
Total elimination.
It's fucking amazing. I love it. I had a separate note just for that. It has to be acknowledged.
Yeah. Fair.
So other than that, I mean, solid ass match. Eliminators ended up winning it in the end. Great opening match, like you said. It drew the crowd in. It was hard hitting ass wrestling. By the way, the ECW ring sounds atrocious to take a bump on.
Yeah, man, that's definitely just some hand-me-downs of the hand-me-downs. Like,
it's bad, and there's concrete on the outside with wires, and like, I don't know how these dudes were taking bumps on this shit. It sounds bad. I don't know if they were doing the old WCW, WWE trick with the mic underneath the mat, but it sounds pretty bad.
I'm not gonna say yes or no. I don't know if they did the mic under the ring, but Heyman knew all the tricks of the trade. That's the thing. I don't know if you know this. As we talk about, like, Vince McMahon still in ECW, did you know that ECW and WWF at the time had like a working agreement for their talent to like randomly show up on their show, right? Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a before the whole alliance and shit like that. There was a partnership with ECW that went on that boosted them quite a bit.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we covered a little bit of it in the Monday Night Wars, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was exciting because of the fact that, like I said, I think about me and my brother staying up till, like, fighting to stay awake till 2 a.m. to just get a glimpse of if this is different ECW than what we saw last week, because we would just get the random hardcore TV episodes, but they didn't have any rhyme or reason by why are they showing this? When did this happen? Is this old? Is this new? Like, we would have no way of knowing because we would just get what we would get. So to have them show up on Monday Night Raw and you get a Sabu jumping off the A of Raw, because that sign used to be the entrance used to be just the word Raw, and you get RVD and the Dudley Boys making appearances and stuff. So yeah, they definitely, if people didn't know about them, they definitely were curious about them from there, because that was not WWF wrestling, to say the least.
Yeah, now I was even looking at my notes back from when we did the Monday Night Wars, and I mean that's a couple of things that were on there. I mean, basically Vince makes a deal. He gets Extreme Wrestling, the shit that he just can't cultivate. He doesn't have the people for it, right? Which is where you get that Sabu spots, and there were people like Saturn, Dreamer, Sabu, Dudley's, all made appearances on WWF television before they even had contracts.
Right.
2-3 years later. So it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool.
Right, I agree, man. Great match. Nice to see and remember Perry Saturn was a wrestler and who could wrestle and be taken serious before, because he's always gonna be remembered for the mop gimmick, man. It's sad, bro. That dude is so much more than
Fucked
that.
him up.
Big time. Yeah, definitely messed him up. So that match ends. Boy, we're gonna see this guy later on. We get into a Sandman promo. Drinking and smoking. Normal shit for Sandman. Hits himself in the head at least 10 times with the kendo stick to bleed, quote, the hard way is what I put the note, as this just white guy hitting himself in the head with kendo stick. I was just like, if this is cable television, I'd be changing the channel right now. Your thoughts, sir?
While smoking a cigarette. The Sandman is an anomaly to me in professional wrestling. He doesn't look like a wrestler. His movesets aren't of a wrestler. He drinks, he smokes, he wields a kendo stick, and he comes down to the ring in Metallica music.
And he's never changed. Since at least I've been seeing it on TV.
Even when they brought him back, I think the only thing they changed was what? The cigarette. He couldn't smoke on TV or something like that.
Are you talking about?
That was about it. When they brought him back in the WWE ECW.
Oh thing. Yeah. I did just
that shit.
Our Let Me Book Pod page on IG just recently shared a reel of that. Yeah, of that whole interaction. So yeah.
Yeah, so he's never changed, bro. Sandman is fucking anomaly.
Yeah,
and he just puts himself over here. Exactly. He just puts himself over here as the best. Like you said, bleeding the hard way by hitting himself 10 times in the fucking forehead with a kendo
And this
stick.
is the first of 4 times we see him do this evening. Evening, folks.
Exactly.
And there's a shot, and when he first is like, when we get to that match, when he get into the 3-way dance, it looks like he has a concussion when he's just staring off into space, like getting ready for his music to get going, and he looks crazy as hell. I'm like, man, that are the eyes of a concussed man that doesn't know he's concussed or won't admit to it. God bless him, though. Real all-star for that behavior. So, speaking of all-stars, or not, I don't know. Chris Candido is cutting a promo in the ring. In an arm brace, putting over his match with some other guys for the tag team titles at WrestleMania 12. So yeah, that's what's happening there. As far as Candido being out there,
he was bitching about how he was in the original Eastern Championship Wrestling before they rebranded to Extreme.
Yeah.
How Heyman doesn't give a shit, and he's not on the call, all this stuff. So yeah,
leaning into it.
I don't even know who Chris Candido is, to be quite honest with you.
Oh man.
Do you have any insight on this guy? 'Cause
yeah,
I didn't really give a shit to even look into
Damn. Yeah, I can give plenty of insight on Chris Candido. Chris Candido, at least the first time I ever saw him was as Skip with Sonny on WWF television as the Body Donnas. Outside of that, after he was doing that, he was just on the indies for the most part, as far as like my ignorant mind to it all goes. And then from there, yeah, it's pretty, as far as just the mindset goes.
Okay.
With that, yeah, pretty much.
All right, yeah, that's cool. Whatever. Chris Candido. Nice.
I mean, because I would say this, listeners, go reference that first episode of Dark Side of the Ring this season, season 4. You will learn a lot more about Chris Candido because a lot of what I can say about him is no relevance to this show. And I don't want to disparage a man that's passed away off of a freak accident that happened. I'll just tell you this. It doesn't sound like you know how he passed away. He was on the come up. He was wrestling, I believe, in TNA Impact. I believe.
Okay.
And he had a little run going. And yes, it was Impact at the time. I don't know. You may remember this era of him wrestling. This was like the late 2000s, roughly. And he gets hurt. And he gets on a plane and has blood clots. And he passes away from a blood clot.
Oh my God.
And Sunny was kind of going after TNA for saying they were kind of negligent in it. And she wouldn't shut up about the fact they sent her just a Christmas ham when he died or some shit like that. So, like I said, I wish I could say more about Chris Candido, but that's kind of unfortunately what he's known for, is just being Sunny's like boyfriend while she was banging Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and other dudes. And he was a worker that should have been respected more, but wasn't because of injuries and in and out of WWF to the indies. That doesn't help anything. So that's why I said I wish I could say other stuff, but it's not a great ending for our guy there. But Barely Legal 97, he's cutting his promo. And with said promo, I think he was just let go from WWF. That's why he's here. Because he got hurt. He's in a sling. And he's bitching and complaining about them. He calls out Lance Storm, even though he can't wrestle him because they were supposed to wrestle this evening. So Lance Storm comes out, full rat tail going. Blonde rat tail is flowing. I think this is right after he was partnering with Chris Jericho over in Stampede Wrestling. They had a tag team. I forget the name of them, but that rat tail was involved in it when he had that going.
Okay.
But I forget the name of their tag team that they had when they were coming up over there. But we get him instead of Chris Candido. We get Mr. Monday Night. A very, very green Mr. Monday Night. I'd say I'd call him Mr. Tuesday Afternoon at this stage in his career. He ain't Mr. Monday Night just yet. RVD. Hey, man, he has some... Gosh. He's not RVD yet in this match, bro. There's some things I can get into. But first, I want you cook first. Your thoughts before I get into kind of my thoughts on
RVD or the match.
Both. I think they both intertwine. I just have a feeling.
Well, starting off, I'm very interested to hear what you said.
Yeah, I
understand he's green.
There was a spot.
Don't get me wrong.
There's a couple spots, man.
What spot?
Like he tried to do his herky jerky shit on the turnbuckle and jump backwards and hit Lance Storm and fell and it was bad looking. But I tried to talk it to that's just the green. He's learning still, but it just didn't look good, I guess. And it's not, again, this isn't even RVD. This is he's if this is a video game, he's 30% completed as far as update. He ain't there yet. He doesn't even have 30%, bro. 30%. 30.
I would say 30% is just his athleticism at this point. At least that man was halfway there. There was a couple fuck ups. But there was a few fuck ups throughout this whole card, if we're going to be honest.
But that's the curses of extreme. You just
exactly. So I would say he's at least half, man. I'm not going to say he's full Mr. Monday Night right now, but he's at least,
I'll throw him some bill.
Give him a fresh Sunday evening or something.
I'm just looking at this appearance, man. He don't got his tape on his hands. He looked lost, bro.
That was a little weird. He didn't have the elbow pads at the
and I think it's because he wasn't expecting to fight or wrestle that night. At least in kayfabe, he was saying that on the mic. But I don't know if that's true or not. But it very, very well be.
Well, yeah, he was the backup
right
for Candido. So, it would make sense. Now, if Paul E was like, hey, take your shit off, make it seem like you weren't ready. That'd be pretty cool,
So like I said, Candido cuts that promo in the Lance Storm versus RVD now as his replacement. Talked about their looks. As far as the match goes in general, WCW Cruiserweight vibes. It's a graps session all day. RVD ends up winning. cuts like some weird work shoot promo about only wrestling because Candido was hurt. But you can see the greatness through this promo, I'd say. You can see what the world has in store with this. Is he related to Jean-Claude Van Damme, or what's happening here? Character that's being presented here. And it done nothing but work for him, and it's still making him money. It's still drawing him numbers. So more power to him. Make money. Take money.
Get the bag. I understand.
Yes, sir. Any other thoughts before we move on to the next one?
RVD is good at playing an asshole when he's in his 20s. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Athletic as fuck still, bro. Like, the dude had the legs of a rugby player. This shit was insane.
I agree.
Like, it looks like getting kicked by that shit would knock your spine into like a different degree. Like,
definitely got scoliosis.
Exactly. So I mean, say props to RVD. Lance Storm is just not really much. I'm not gonna, not in a disrespectful way. We've given plenty of props to Lance Storm. That man is a wrestling machine, especially this early in '97. Hell yeah. So great match. Could have been a little better from a couple of the spots RVD had, but not too many comments on it.
And I'm not mad. I shouldn't be giving perfect scores to ECW. Like, it's a flawed product, and it leans into its flaws because they know it's a flawed product.
They know for sure,
and I'm not mad at that. It's like you become expert in what you know, and if that's what you know, that's what you do. You can never be bad all the way, I'd say. And it's speaking of being bad, I guess, Terry Funk promo. Terry Funk is a huge baby face right now. Probably the biggest I'd say I've ever seen him since I've been wrestling or watching wrestling, excuse me. So yeah, it was interesting to see that this persona non grata as far as the Funker goes. But it sounds like you got some strong thoughts on T. So what's your thoughts on Mr. Funk, sir?
Why is he wrestling in ECW right now? Isn't he like 53 at this point?
He is. And this is not his first ECW match. He has feuds with Cactus Jack everywhere. I think that's where a lot of his stuff started. And I feel like a lot of those guys, when they were on those last hurrah, and I put in quote last hurrah runs, like through different apparatuses and whatnot. So I don't know, bro.
I'm not going to get into the wrestling because we're not there yet, but the simple thought of a 53-year-old Terry Funk fighting for a title.
It's the story, man. Think about who we deal. It's Heyman. This is, like I said, this is his like mad scientist shit. Cause you watch this show and think about the bloodline, cause a lot of that is him, and that's why Roman wanted to align himself with him because of shit like this. He's known for it. The man is a creative, and with that being said, he knew the only thing he could sell this card on. You got this 53-year-old man. And you see, and they keep saying it, 53-year-old man. They could say a dude in his 50s, 53-year-old man. Like, they lead into it, and that's by design. It's marketing strategy shit. We gonna really sell y'all that, hey, this 53-year-old man about to defy the odds, and y'all gonna see it. And they kind of sell, like I said, Funk is a huge baby face right now. Biggest I have ever seen him in my time of watching Terry Funk, from NWA highlights when he was feuding with Flair and the shit that him and Cactus Jack, even Chainsaw Charlie was not this much of a baby face when he was doing that gimmick. So yeah, that's Paul Heyman just knowing what his hand is and knowing this is my only ace. This 53-year-old man that's about to defy the odds and be a bloody mess holding my championship belt at the end of this show. Because he's a student of the game. He knows. What do we always make fun of on our main show? Like, we talk about Hulk needing to pose and shit at the end of every pay-per-view. Heyman know that shit. Yeah. Heyman knows.
Yeah.
And like I said, him and Vince were a lot cooler than you would think. And I think the old school, the OG wrestlers felt that way too, especially when like things started going bad and who was really doing bad versus who was really, really doing bad, as far as like people not getting paid and stuff, and some people still being okay income wise. So
You know, I'm gonna go into retrospective with it. I think I'm looking at it from a different standpoint. Like I said, I'm not gonna get into the match, but when it comes around, I'll explain why I feel weird with it, because it makes sense. I thought about it for a second, and I feel like if I explain it, it'll make sense.
Oh, I can't wait to
go
get
past
there.
it. Exactly. There we go. All right.
So with that being said, since we will put a pin in the takes on the Funkster, we get into match number 3. Showcase of sorts. ECW was infamous for collabs, partnerships with other like indie outfits. Like we were just talking about their partnership under the table with WWF. So ECW knew, like, to get their name out here, they gotta try to attach themselves to other built-in networks and stuff to make sure people knew about them. So you got this Michinoku Pro Wrestling 3 6-man tag with a bunch of guys from like that's wrestled in New Japan, and then now this, I don't know how long the Michinoku Pro Wrestling, if it's even still open or how long it lasted, but it's here. It was at this time. So yeah, they had a wrestling match here, and they were all Taka's match team was decked out in BWO gear, which was heavily over, by the way. We'll talk about that in the main event, how over BWO gear was, because it wasn't NWO gear. It was like exclusive, again, because ECW was something you didn't see everywhere. Major takes about that later to come. But you got these guys to that point. You got guys in Japan paying homage to them. It's very heavy. Like if the Bullet Club was more jokey as far as the following and the concept, that's what the BWO is. It's like a joke version of what the Bullet Club is, because Bullet Club's just NWO. Let's keep it a buck. But they just knew how to keep it cool versus letting Vince Russo cook in the kitchen. I big digress. But what were your thoughts on this match, man?
It was nice because there's a lot of dudes in here that I've actually known of. So off the rip, Taka Michinoku, and then who was the other one? There was Gran Hamada, then Suzuki,
Dick Togo,
and then I know Dick Togo. I didn't know the Yakasiji. I don't know that guy. But other than that, this shit was like high paced. Fucking Suzuki has like the best fucking moonsault I've seen in a while reviewing some of these things, bro. That shit was just beautiful. But like I said, high paced, heavy slams. The Joey Styles was going fucking nuts trying to call all this shit by himself.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Entertaining showcase. I know how you were saying they like showcasing. This was a really good showcase.
Yeah, I agree, man. It did exactly what it was supposed to do. I'm glad that they did not. I feel like this would be something that most promotions would decide to open their show with. I'm glad that they left this in like the number 3 spot, because now people are starting to as I'm watching this back as we are talking about it, and you can see people, it's not as crowded as it was in the front row, so they're trying to keep people back, I guess, or to not want to go to the bathroom. So it's a perfect place for this type of match, whereas typically, like I said, most promotions would start off with a match like this to get everybody excited for what's to come, especially with it being so long. Like this match almost went the full time limit, which was an hour. Pretty long match, but I think it served its purpose for the most part, showcasing some different kind of wrestling, but still aligns with the ECW mantra, which is dudes that work and go. But then on the other side, there's dudes that will literally kill you in the ring if you give them an opportunity, purpose or accident. So yeah, definitely a tale of two of two facilities there, to say the least. So from there, as far as the match goes, the gentlemen that are not dressed as the BWO win. One of them was wearing an elf outfit that really threw me off. Was that one of the people that you were familiar with, or no?
The elf outfit, and I think the dude I wasn't familiar with was wearing the green.
Yeah,
if I'm not
that's
mistaken,
the same.
like Power Ranger.
Yep, that's I call him. He's just like an elf, unless there's another green guy.
I just call him the Green Ranger. That's all I knew.
Oh, that's fair. He kind of, I see what you're saying.
Because I think the crowd was even chanting Power Rangers at one point. It was funny.
That tracks. That completely tracks. So that squad wins. Not a lot of fanfare. I mean, like, this is strictly just to show people what this product is all about. Next we get, because they're doing promos of all the people involved in the three-way dance this evening in between matches. Also very smart for people that are watching this for the first time, so you can get familiar with what your main event's gonna look like. You got Big Stevie Cool, Stevie Richards. I can tell you this, bro. Me and my brother Matt were humongous Stevie Richards fans in this era because, in my opinion, best super kick around. Can't say me different. But I also got to digress on that too, because he was really laying in kicks on motherfuckers. Like, look at, and when we get to the main event, and this what sucks about these promos is it gets us want to talk about it, and we're not there yet. He is legitimately laying his sole of his boot into people's faces. There's no leg slapping happening. That is straight leather to face. No Jeff Jarrett. So, yes, that is exactly why I think Big Stevie Cool's super kick was better than Shawn Michaels at the time. It's a dope battle, and he's so tall, and he's hitting people with it. That's what it was such a different thing. And I know it's everybody's gimmick, and he's doing it, but it was funny, it was fun. And they were doing stuff that you didn't see happening on WWF or WCW, as far as we're going to have guys acting like people that already exist in wrestling, and we're just going to roll with the gimmicks. So, amazing, smart gimmick. But as far as Stevie Richards, though, thoughts on him and thoughts on the promo. I didn't even get into the actual promo, but your thoughts on Stevie.
Stevie Richards is weird to me because I didn't really understand it at the moment. Because you got to think, the first instance I was introduced to Stevie Richards was a jobber on like SmackDown to people.
I know, and that's why I'm laughing in my mind, because I'm thinking like he had a completely different introduction to Stevie Richards.
Completely. And then I saw the BWO come in, and I'm just like,
yeah,
who are these jackasses, bro? Like on WWE television, I'm just like, what the fuck is this?
That era, to see that in like 2005, 2006, again, does not do any favors at all. No favors.
It doesn't, because it kind of tainted. It tainted it completely.
Yeah.
There's no way. If I relived it, if I literally took a DeLorean back to 1995 and relived the entire BWO thing, I still couldn't take it as serious as if I've never seen that before in my life.
I beg to differ, bro. I beg to differ. I think this is one of those you have to be in it experiences. I think the next time we go back into the ECW conversation, I'm gonna have to bring on either E-Ray or like one of my brothers or my uncle that were there watching it, just so I don't sound like such a homer, and I can have them there to say, no, BA, you were fucking tripping, that shit was garbage. And I need that third party there as we talk about this product, because I have my glasses are very rosy when I look back at ECW, because again, I saw all this stuff happening as it was happening, and it was over to me. And you watch it, you watch them in the crowd, like when they come out for that main event, who gets the biggest pop?
I mean, Terry Funk, technically.
No, that's at the end of the night. That don't count. Terry Funk gets the worst reaction out of the three. I say reactions go. It's arguable between. I would have heard Sandman argument, but the BWO all coming out to start that pay-per-view. They got that crowd back excited again. Think about it. End of the show. Time to get your people excited. Not only you gonna get this three-way dance, you're getting a whole nother match right after it. So they got everybody ready for the match. In my opinion, when you go back and look at that crowd and how they're reacting, BWO gets the biggest pop. That shit was over at the time.
I like I said, Vince tainted it for me. That's
because, again, Vince didn't understand a lot of this stuff and why it was popular, and he just destroyed the presentations of a lot of this stuff. Like I'm sure I'm dreading the day when we do it, but WWECW, bullshit. Should have never happened. It should have just ran the one night stand shows and just left it there. But you can't have Vince is always, you can never have too much of a good thing. And y'all want it? Here's fucking king size versions of it all day. Now here's a whole nother brand for you.
I was so lit when I heard they're gonna bring back ECW because I've heard tales of what it was. So I thought they was gonna bring back actual ECW. But if we go back and review that shit, man, once we review that, that's gonna be a horrid episode.
I literally
Blood Rising.
can feel the headphones on my head getting tighter because of my head pulsating, thinking about watching the zombies eat The Miz and Morrison, as we were talking about on the main show last week.
Oh my god!
And I think the zombie happens. There's December to Dismember, which we're absolutely covering this December.
We're doing that.
Yeah. Might have to collab that up because I know there's some other podcasts that listen to us. Shout out to Powerbomb Jutsu that would appreciate that pay-per-view, just knowing how they look at that and TNA and shit. So yeah, we gonna talk about that. But to get back on track here, because like I said, these promos that they run, not healthy for a review show like ours, because they make us want to talk about the main event that they're trying to get the casual viewer ready for. So let's get back into the card, man. Match number 4, ECW Television Championship on the line. We got the franchise, Pittsburgh's finest, Shane Douglas, accompanied by Francine, the Queen of Extreme, versus Pitbull number 2.
Now, BA, I want to go and I want to apologize to you, okay?
Let me hear it.
When we reviewed, was it New Blood Rising that had the franchise on it?
Yes, looking, like I said, looking sad. He was in a cutoff and some jeans.
I was talking really reckless.
He had a carpal tunnel like thing on his wrist. It was, like I said, that's not the Shane Douglas I remember at all, or want to remember.
Okay, yes. So that's what I'm saying. I apologize for all the slander, Shane Douglas slander.
Get it?
That I said, because this Shane Douglas looks more like a fucking franchise than 2000 WCW Shane Douglas.
Thank you.
2000 WCW Shane Douglas looks like a fucking abomination and an atrocity,
like I said,
to the human race.
He was there. He was there to get paid because of he did his real work here.
He was collecting a check. Yes, that's what it sounds like.
Like a lot of those guys.
He was collecting a check. Exactly. So this Shane Douglas actually looks like somebody you would franchise tag and put a belt on.
Oh yeah.
This is more believable.
Facts.
So I just want to apologize there.
The whole gimmick, and this ain't even like, I can't wait as we keep reviewing ECW pay-per-views or sprinkling them in to our schedule as we keep going, because this is not even the full Impact players. Like, this is, you see the pieces of it here in this match. Like, you get Shane Douglas and Francine, and then you get, at the end of this match, you see Candido coming back in. Candido's a part of their stable as they get going. And then the last person, my moniker namesake, Bam Bam Bigelow, completes the triple threat. And they get into some shits, boy. That's when Bam Bam starts his feud with Taz. Him and Taz have fucking bangers, bro. Like, it gives me goosebumps when I think about the match that him and Taz had. I forget the pay-per-view, but when they go through that ring and the way the ref acts when he falls through the ring. I don't think you remember. Have you ever seen this spot before? Oh yeah.
No.
Nope. Think I just blew the lead. That's the next pay-per-view we're reviewing, because that shit is awesome. And you should hear stories about Taz talking about that match and how they had to plan that spot and how dangerous and how that could have floundered because, you know, wrestling tricks and shit. So it's fun to listen to him tell that story about him and Bam Bam. Because Bam Bam was one of my favorite wrestlers. I always vibe with big guys that can move. And Bam Bam was one of my favorites just because he was so different, and that fucking flame head tattoo just popped me as a kid. No, like I'm glad you got to hear. And in my opinion, this isn't even him in his final form yet, as far as the best franchise we get. But you get to see throughout this promo, they're showing highlights of like hardcore TVs of the past where Shane Man literally took a man in a metal neck brace by the name of Pitbull 1, who's sitting ringside in a neck brace, took it and threw him around by the metal neck brace. Looked pretty wild to see somebody get tossed by something like that. That looked like a serious injury. Yes, pretty crazy. So Shane Douglas talking his shit. Shane Douglas shooting. You hear him talk about guys on the other channels. Like I said, that's him throwing his shots back at the Click. He is not a Click fan. He is not a Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Scott Hall guy. He did not like those guys. Like I said, go back and look at the shoot interviews that he gives throughout years past on YouTube. He gets into it. Yes. But these are some alluding right here in real time. Like, this is 1997. He's not giving any fucks, calling those guys out, but not saying their names, of course. But yeah, great promo to get it going. And then he's wrestling a guy named Pitbull number 2. I'd be lying if I said that I watched a lot of Pitbull 1 and 2 matches growing up. This is probably the most infamous one I know of, because they were a tag team in ECW, but they weren't one of the top tag teams in my opinion. They weren't in that upper crust of ECW tag team, in my opinion. But I digress there.
Understandable.
Yeah.
Hey, I understand. I mean, the dude, just from looking at it, because this is my first exposure to the Pitbulls at all. Mm-hmm. Pitbull number 2 just looks like a Ryback with personality that can actually wrestle. Yeah.
It's essentially what he was presented as. Like, they just were presented as these big meatheads with dog chains around their necks, basically. I got Steiner Brother vibes more than that, but that's just me. I got Steiner Brother vibes from him and Pitbull 1. When you see Pitbull 1 wrestle,
I've never seen both of them wrestle, so
hey, you're not.
I've only seen 2.
I hate to say you're not missing much, but it's wrestling.
Oh, like that. Ooh,
yeah.
Ooh, okay.
It's wrestling.
All right.
I mean, these guys can work. Like I said, you can see Pitbull 2 working in this match. This is a long match too. Like I said, these guys work in ECW. You telling me that a 40-something-year-old Shane Douglas wants to go out there and put on a 45 minute match? No, but he believes in this and what he's doing here, so he has no problem doing it. And that's the type of shit I talk about when I was opening up the show with. Like, you can see the passion all throughout this card, as far as just the presentation in general, and seeing how serious people are taking it as far as the work they're doing in the ring. They're not just trying to get by and get to the next thing. They're literally giving it their all to sell out for people that paid money to watch this on pay-per-view. So the match was not a bad match. It was okay. It got the point across to get us to an interesting ending. Like I said, this is the origin stories of building a triple threat franchise, or stable, with the franchise. Bam Bam Bigelow and Chris Candido. And with that being said, Candido interferes at the end. Shane Douglas ends up winning. A weird voice comes over the microphone. Somebody comes out with a fucking luchador mask and a ravishing Rick Rude robe. Looks kind of like him at naked glance. That person gets in the ring. After said person, like ravishing Rick Rude, gets in the ring, another gentleman jumps in the ring like a 2006 Edge, wearing a biker helmet in all black. More reasons how Vince stole this shit. And it's actually ravishing Rick Rude in the ring, and they beat the crap out of the person dressed up as Rick Rude, who was a gentleman named Brian Lee. Not a lot I can tell you about Brian Lee. I think he was just one of those guys in this era that hung out for a little bit, went on to the next thing. You get that it's indie outfit, so you get a lot of random people coming in and out of this product at all times, as you've seen on the internet, I'm sure, with the random people you never knew were in ECW, but had a cup of coffee here. So I think that's what that was. But also a lot of sadness around this match. Some guys in this match passed away. Obviously, this is right before Rick Rude passed away. He was getting back in in-ring shape. As you saw, he looked good. Like, he looked like he was like ready to go again. Because if you remember, I'd say 96 is when he was going back and forth, or when he did the whole I was on Raw and I was on Nitro on the same night type shit. This was a little bit after that. So he's done with the big guys. He's going back to Paul Lee. Him and Paul Heyman have a great history together. They were very close. Paul Heyman used to manage Rick Rude when he was in WCW in a Dangerous Alliance when he was had that whole gimmick going. So I'm sure that's why Rick Rude was like, I'd rather start up with you than start up with WCW or WWF, with that being said.
Understandable.
So yeah, totally. So this is probably like one of the last times you get a live shot of Rick Rude on camera, which is sad. And then like I said, other sadness, Pitbull 2 is passed away from that's in this match. He's no longer with us. He had passed away. Sad. Had overdosed on fentanyl, but when they found him, unfortunately, like they found like his 2 children were in the house when they found him, uncared for. These bodies, him and his girlfriend's bodies were there for like 3 days. OD, sad shit, bro. But hey, this era of wrestling, this is ECW, and we're gonna talk about it at the end. I got a interesting question for you, and I think you kind of know where I'm going at with what ECW means to wrestling. It's a very convoluted thing, and when stories like that come up, it makes me think about what the negativity that comes with what ECW represented. But moving on, we get from there a legendary Taz textbook promo with the black towel over his head, super close in on, you know, nothing but raw emotion. Can literally see the sweat dripping off his nose as he is giving this promo. Pure fucking heat. You don't write him this good in WWE as far as the promos guys like him were cutting at this time. So we get this promo, pre-recorded type of deal. Him just talking shit to Sabu, telling Sabu, like, I think he'll say, I'm gonna make you tap out. You gotta tap out, Sabu. He's like, it's time. Like, you gotta go, bro. So we get to match number 4, just Taz versus Sabu, a grudge match as it's labeled, and you can tell this is a fucking grudge match, just the vibes of the match in general. But I want to kind of stop though, like, and get into Taz. Taz was one of my favorite wrestlers of this era, no doubt in my mind about it. Taz was a small, stocky dude that I thought looked like me, but he's got some melanin in him somewhere. But like I said, dude that looked like me, and he's slamming people around. He's like this short, stocky dude. Survive if I let you. Like, that shit was hard as fuck to me growing up. Telling dudes survive if I let you. Like, that is so fucking sinister. So what was your thoughts, man? OG Taz.
OG Taz is different because I loved when he first debuted in WWE. Even that was the shit, but WWE fucking ruined Taz, in my opinion.
Yeah,
they fucking ruined him.
Yeah.
I will never forgive WWE to what they've done to some of these wrestlers that came in from ECW, WCW, and all that shit. They fucking ruined Taz. But here, OG Taz, this nigga can beat ass and was intimidating. Every wrestler that I made as a kid, as a creator wrestler, always had a towel over their head because of Taz. I'm pretty sure I said that before, but I'll say it again. I've heard Taz, that's the reason I always did that shit. Taz has been like a huge influence over that shit. My parents love Taz as well because my mom's is from New York and Taz is from Brooklyn. So like, connect, right? They loved it. They freaking loved it, bro.
From the Red Hook section of Brooklyn. Yeah,
man, right, bro. And you got like he comes down to the ring with Bill Alfonso and the original Team Taz with everybody with the bro on their shirt and all that.
Not that bullshit they doing in AEW now. This is what FTW and all that shit. This is what it's supposed to be. Not what
this is the original FTW.
Not what
Team
Jungle Jerk Off is doing up there in AEW. Not a fan of that, but that's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, so you get all the feels with Taz's entrance. The like that's like you said. They completely destroyed his character in WWE. And we'll get into that kind of stuff later. Just how Vince always botched the new toys that came into the toy box that we thought he knew what to do with, but knew absolutely nothing what to do. So you get Taz, like I said, then you get Sabu. Sabu, typically unhinged in the ring is the only word I can describe Sabu's work style. Sabu is all about just the crazy spot. How bad can he hurt himself, or at least make it appear as he hurt himself or hurt someone else? And you see some of that style sprinkled in this match, but surprisingly, and I think this is pre-pod we were talking, you don't see a Taz and Sabu match, or a Sabu match where he is not acting as wild. Like, don't get me wrong, this match gets in the crowd, it gets on the concrete, that happens, but you see probably the most technical I've ever seen Sabu wrestle. And that's because he's getting forced to by Taz. Because Taz is he's the founder of Suplex City. I know Brock Lesnar has popularized it. He has made it a conglomerate, a multi-million-dollar thing. But Taz is who created Suplex City, in my opinion. So you get a lot of that in this match. A lot of fucking suplexes.
I give you that.
Yeah, nobody was slamming dudes like that until Taz. Like, I'd argue with you, Scott and Rick Steiner, but even then, they did other stuff. Like, Scott Steiner was known for doing Frankensteiners and shit. Rick Steiner was just very stiff in the ring and hurt people. He liked to wrestle like that. That's what they're more known for.
It took stages. It was Taz, and then it was Kurt Angle, and then now it's Brock Lesnar. So we got to see who takes over after Brock.
And you got to sprinkle in there, he who WWE shall remain forever nameless, because he was a suplex machine in himself.
I'll put him in there with Kurt Angle.
Yes, because they kind of came in at the same era. Because he wasn't doing that in WCW, right? I want to say he was, but it wasn't his shtick. His shtick was the submission.
He used the move, but
it was nowhere near.
Doing a bunch of nowhere near.
Got you. It was kind of how Eddie and his the suplexes that he would do.
Yep,
that didn't really get popular. He did it in WCW, but it didn't become popularized until he got to the E.
They made it a gimmick in the E. They made it a gimmick.
That's the one thing Vince is good at. He knows how to gimmick some shit to get people to want to buy it on some merch. I will give the old man that. But yeah,
train the pop.
Yes, to say the least. But yeah, like I said, this match is a grudge match. You get all the feels of it. A good mix of like wrestling graps in a match involving a gentleman that purposefully tries to hurt himself or others with spots. And like I said, there's a spot in this match where Sabu tries to hurt himself. It looks like it, but he's trying to like drag Taz through a table on the outside, but he just falls through it, and they keep selling that he fell on his knee. I was like, is that an accident, or that's just Sabu just being Sabu sloppy and out of control? And I think it's more the latter, and Joey Styles just leaned into it.
There's a conspiracy with ECW dudes and Sabu saying that he intentionally makes his spots sloppy sometimes just for the match.
Let me lean into that. I've never heard this before.
You've never heard that
before?
Really?
I'm curious.
Okay. I can't remember who it was, if it was RVD or if it was Dreamer. I can't remember. But they basically said, with Sabu, there's not a botch. If you see Sabu fuck up, it's because he wanted to fuck up. He did it to look, because it's like, because if you think about it in reality, if you're really fighting and really doing all these things, you're never going to get it right on the first time.
Yeah, it's going to look
so why would everything look pinpoint, crisp, exact, nothing fucks up?
Great point.
It's going to look more realistic if someone has, oh shit, my foot slipped on the rope, let me go back and try it again, which is exactly what he did. If you look at it, he went and he ran up on a chair and he tried to do a moonsault off the top, but lost his footing, went back and just did a regular dive to put him through the table. Like, it's shit like that. So it's like, did he really fuck up? Or was that a Sabu wrestling technique? Like,
I guess that's I don't know. That's a sign of a good worker, is because if you can sit there,
look into that.
Yeah, I definitely will. And more kind of speaks to my thought process around the extreme spots he was trying to do in this match. Where more kind of worked against him. There looked like stuff that could have been avoided. At least that knee spot, like I said. But I will definitely go back and look out for those interviews. I think if they're saying it, there's probably some fucking truth to it. I'm not gonna lie. They wouldn't just be saying it. And Sabu's there to make money too.
Exactly, and that spot where you're talking about, because basically what they were doing is Taz was trying to put him through the table and all that, and then he fought him back. Yep. Sabu gets up on like the middle top rope and tries to do basically like a spinning DDT, and then Taz just lets him go.
Got it.
So like it wasn't a fucked up spot. I mean, I don't know if Joey Styles just called it wrong or anything like that. I don't know.
He kept on selling an injury on it. Yeah, like trying to say like Sabu's knees right there is where he injures it. I'm like, did he injure his knee? Not lipping around. He did all the normal crazy shit he would do in a normal match.
Maybe he was supposed to.
Maybe that, and he was trying to save his ass, and at least that's what he thought.
Exactly. But the spot was totally planned.
Yeah. That all tracks as far as that goes. And then, like I said, the match ends. Taz wins clean. We get some shenanigans at the end of the match. You get Bill Alfonso coming in the ring. He was wearing the Team Taz shirt at first. I can't remember if it's before or after we get RVD coming down, but Bill Alfonso
after. This is after.
So
yeah,
RVD comes down.
So basically, RVD comes down and all that shit. So basically, at first, Taz tries to be a good sport. You know, give Sabu a handshake. Right. You gave me the fight of my life. Right. All that shit. RVD comes down, hits him in the back. Pause, and causes this whole shebang. Sabu starts grabbing Montgomery equalizers and shit like that, and putting niggas through tables. Like, it was some wild shit. And so Sabu acts like a fucking piece of trash, and you know, beats the shit out of Taz. And then Bill Alfonso, like you were saying, comes in and he's got the whole shirt on, and then takes it off, and it's a fucking Sabu shirt. And, oh, it was. You could see Paul Heyman booking all over that. It was beautiful.
Absolutely, man. Like, again, like seeing like where he's at now in his career and what he's been controlling over this bloodline storyline, and giving those guys all this stuff to kind of how to do this and really lean into it and make people care. You see the seeds all laid throughout this card on him trying to get people to care about this pay-per-view. Way harder sell than the bloodline, in my opinion.
Way harder.
Yeah, to sell this in 97. But there's no other period of time it would have been allowed. I can say that. So with that being said, after we get that turn, we're finally at the co-main event, I'd call it at this stage. Match 5, the three-way dance for the title shot against Raven and the ECW title has been advertised all night. Terry Funk, the 53-year-old man trying to win the ECW title, for Dory Funk Sr., his dad, Daddy Funk, versus probably the most legitimate drunk I've ever seen in the ring, because that man drank at least 4 to 5 beers that we saw on camera. Sandman, and I ain't talking no Stone Cold, well, I'm gonna just dump this all out everywhere and not drink but a drop of it. No, Sandman was drinking them beers, y'all. Straight frat boy shit. And then we get the controversial Big Stevie Cool, Stevie Richards. Like I said earlier, in these entrances, BWO over. Period. People ate this shit up because it was not the NWO, and they were making fun of the NWO essentially, and also rubbing in their WWF gimmicks with Big Stevie Cool being essentially Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels combined. It's like I said, it's so much funny stuff. The Blue Meanie stuff has always been weird to me. I can't justify that. I align it more with Juggalo behavior, if anything. Right? Like, that's all I can really chalk that to, is like this has some sort of ICP like threading to it. And then the Blue Nova was just a knock on Hulk Hogan. So like these guys all come out in their BWO gimmick galore, and people are loving it. From there, we get the Sandman, who comes out as if he's already concussed. He gives the most blankest stare as he stands in the crowd as Enter Sandman blasts illegally on the speakers in ECW arena. Crowd is loving it, singing along with Enter Sandman. That's what made Sandman's entrance so cool to me as a kid, was the fact his name was Sandman. They're playing Metallica's Enter Sandman. This dude is wearing Zumba pants, I think some Sir Chucks, and a ECW shirt of his own, and a kendo stick, and a 24 some butt heavies. That's all the man needs. And when you see Sandman in the ring, bro, like seeing him like get blown up and hands on knees 4 minutes into the match, I'm like, yeah, that dude's legitimately drunk. Like that's some like drunk shit. Like if I think about myself like trying to like do athletic stuff drunk, that's what it would look like. Just a lot of just like, ooh. I'm surprised he didn't throw up. Like, that's what it really sold it up for me, I would say. But yeah, man. Thoughts on entrances and presentation of this three-way dance?
Okay, so finally I can talk shit. So, first of all, I'm going to give, like I said, I'm young eyes. I'm seeing it for the first time in the moment. Vince has already ruined it for me. Big Stevie Cool is not fucking believable at all for me.
What?
Not one bit. Not one fucking bit.
Why not?
I was laughing when I was watching the promo, I was laughing my ass off. When the BWO
the promo was not to be taken serious. That was not to be taken serious.
I know. And then when he comes to the ring, I'm just like, this is a fucking joke. This dude is wearing Daisy Dukes, knee pads, and wrestling boots with a fucking mid-breeze cutoff BWO shirt. Yes. Like trying to be a gimmick Kevin Nash. This shit is hilarious.
He's like all three of them.
And then he's fighting a white trash drunk who smokes fucking Virginia Slims
in the match
and fucking makes himself bleed with a kendo stick the hard way
numerous times,
coming down to the ring to Enter Sandman.
Yep, illegally
fighting a 53-year-old Terry Funk in a three-way dance. What fucking part of this is believable or like I don't know.
You know what I can tell you? This is why that happened. ECW, because this is why, like I said, I had a very rosy colored eye view of this match as a kid. This is the first time I've watched this match this many times as an adult in its original form. In its original form in general, I probably haven't seen this pay-per-view since it's like stuff was like tapes were getting passed around to this. Like that's how long it's been since I've seen it in its original incarnation as it should have been. So to go back and see it now, quite a ways away from when I was watching this at the time. Yeah, there were some thoughts, bro. And there were some choices made here in this pay-per-view co-main event that little kid-eyed BA had no understanding of what he was watching. As far as like how, and I'll start here. The ladder. You could consider this a four-way dance because the ladder was like a wrestler in this match. As far as the spots the ladder had,
Jesus Christ,
the ladder was a wrestler in my eyes. It had amazing spots. The ladder even went into the crowd at a point in time. I was just like, yeah. There's no.
I thought the ladder was going over for a second.
Right, and I understand why. Like, not only was I had to sneak watch this. I think about like if I tried to ask my mom, like, "Hey, Ma, can you take us to an ECW show?" There is no way in hell my black mother was going to take her black sons to this show ever. It's never fixed my mouth to ask that question, but
nope.
Yeah, to the point of the ECW conversation, like why all those things you described happening is because these are the things that Paul Heyman knows that he can sell on this card to try to create some sort of intrigue of a storyline to make somebody want to watch outside of this just being deathmatch shit. And you can pay for it on pay-per-view now. You don't got to sneak watch it or find it from some dude that has the tapes. So
Terry Funk at 53 in ECW gives me Flair's last match vibes.
Oh, that's disrespectful.
I'm not with it.
No,
I'm not.
No.
I'm sorry.
No.
I had to say it, man. I'm sitting here like, dude, this just not like he looks like Sami Zayn 30 years plus if he never took care of himself trying to fight out there. It looked bad, bro, and I'm just like, man, it is sloppy. It doesn't look right. It's not believable. Like, who do you want to win? The 53-year-old blown up Terry Funk, the fucking drunk who bust himself open, or Big Stevie fucking Cool and Daisy Dukes? Which one do you want to go to fight your champion?
I think that's
you take your pick. Take your pick. I
think that's why the 53-year-old man won. When you break down who was in this match, like to that level, like you got Drunk Sandman, you got AARP Terry Funk, and you got this joke gimmick in Stevie Richards and what he's doing, and as Big Stevie Cool, out of control. All of it is out of control. It is like an LSD trip of madness as far as like how do you make sense of why anybody would care about this. But again, Paul Heyman knew these are the only pieces that he could get some sort of like drama and storyline off of the land of misfit toys that was the ECW roster at this point in time. A lot of these guys, and we said it earlier, they worked because that's the only thing they knew to do was to work. And if they knew how to do more, they would not be in ECW. Like as far as doing other things, like being able to do the creative side of it. So that's where it gets tough with that kind of stuff, man. But like, I'm not gonna completely shit on this because there were some fun spots in it. But I bring up the ladder, like I said earlier, because there were a lot of spots where people were fighting on it for no reason. There's no belt hanging above your head. Why are y'all standing on the ladder punching each other? So many like seesaw moments with the ladder. Like again, somebody hits it and it literally flies into the crowd. I think who throws it? Sandman literally throws it into the ring. It hits Terry Funk in the head, and Terry Funk sells it like the showman that he is. I'm sure it didn't hurt, but he sold it like it did. It was hilarious. So again, ladder is like technically speaking the best worker in this match. Not even gonna cap.
Jesus, man.
But I got to see Stevie kicks, and I was happy with it because I forgot again how good his sweet chin music looked compared to people of today in the past. And the only person I feel like that could touch what Stevie Richards was doing was the person that made it popular, Shawn Michaels. Everybody else's super kicks are inferior to Stevie and Shawn. And I know the AEW conglomerate are heating up their torches right now to come after me. With that said, but yeah, your Buckaroos still can't cut it when it comes to super kicks. The Usos are better than them at kicking people in the face. Sorry. And the fact that Matt Jackson's Jordan exploded when he super kicked somebody, still don't understand why that happened. Still don't have answers why that happened. So yeah, so like with that being said, you got to see. I was happy to see Stevie Richards. I know you don't understand it, but the dude's an underrated talent. He's done a lot of different gimmicks. You gotta throw flowers at that had no business working. This one included.
I just know right to censor Stevie Richards. Okay,
and that was a great gimmick, and that's why I was like he had to do a lot of different stuff to try to get over. And right to censor was probably his most over gimmick, I would say.
Probably.
Yeah.
Between everything that was in, we're not going to go into detail about it, but yeah, I would say right to censor Stevie Richards is probably the most over shit besides BWO, arguably, that he's ever done.
That's fair.
Most definitely.
So I'll just get into the match then, like as far as just what we get in this match. Like I said, the ladder fighting just didn't understand. I made a note about Sandman's behavior in this match. I gotta read this quote verbatim. I said, quote, Sandman is here for straight fucking trash, no graps. Those Zumbas are for chilling, and his drinking is for drinking, and his kendo stick is being used strictly to go against himself. The man is a drunk, and I love it. That is being broadcast on my TV. All that I said in the note, because I was just like, it's been a long time since I've seen people purposefully not want to work in the ring. Like, that's at the end of the day, like, you're a wrestler. That's all you got. I know how to work. my promo skills may not be where they at. I'm still working on this gimmick and this character, but I'll give you some shit in the ring. I'll give you some spots. So to think about it in that light, and then to see my guy Sandman like hands on knees, throwing things at people. The wrestling moves are at best a 4 out of 10 as far as what he was doing.
Jesus,
bro,
you gave him that much? I gave him like a 2.
I guess,
bro,
I was
the
being
Sandman,
generous.
like you said, all bullshit, no graps, no graps, like spot fest galore. This man was not down. I didn't see a headlock takeover.
He did an elbow.
Arm, like,
he did an elbow with I think it was Stevie or Terry Funk was on the ground. He was leaning in some elbows.
My 5-year-old can do an elbow. Okay,
I'm sure better. Probably sell it better.
Sober too, you know
that too.
I'm just
that
saying.
Helps a ton.
Just saying. Nah, I gave this nigga a 2, bro. I'm not giving him no 4. That's almost halfway decent. This shit wasn't halfway decent for wrestling moves.
That's fair. I be taking in the entertainment factor when I be thinking about those scores, like, cause I was entertained, but it was bad. So I'll leave it as the bad part. So like I said, I talked about the ladder being like the special guest 4th member of this match.
That's the 4th man. He's the 4th man.
Like, again, watching Sandman make a note makes me understand why Vince was not a fan of any of this shit, nor knew what to do with it when it became his. The Sandman spot where he's wrapped in barbed wire like a Christmas present and is behaving like a pinball and just running into people. That was bad. I even had to say, I'm like, that's ugly. That's ugly. You shouldn't be doing that.
Spot fest. All spots, no grabs.
But the spots are like even at best questionable. At best. Like, that's what I was saying, because I was like, how is he selling like this barbed wire being tied around his body, and I'm messing people up with it, and yeah, that didn't work for me at all, brother. So I couldn't do it. And then, like I said, I don't know how you compare last match Ric Flair to a Terry Funk that can do an actual moonsault and sell it and make it look good for a 53-year-old man. Ric Flair in that last match literally fell asleep during it. Admittingly says, yeah, I blacked out and fell asleep because of the blade job, brother. Like, it's out of control to me. So I don't think there's a wrestling performance as egregious as that out there, as far as what I saw through clips and photos of the Nature Boy in his 4X tall purple tee cut off, and what happened in that match with Dub's favorite wrestler and Jay Lethal. So
that was okay. I'll retract most of the statement. I said it gave me a little of the feels, because I'm just like, why is
seeing a bloodied older man will take you there.
Yeah, it's the feels of it. I'm not directly comparing it, saying like, oh, this is equivalent. It's the feels of the cringe of it.
Okay,
I don't want to see a 53-year-old man in an ECW death match with the Sandman and Big Stevie Cool.
Oh man,
and then with barbed wire, ladders, aluminum sheets, trash cans.
You're gonna really hate when we review Cactus Jack and Terry Funk matches in ECW. Those are some violent matches. And he is not.
I can already tell
he is not too much. Further away from this age you're seeing him at in this match.
I can already tell, because I know Mick Foley matches are fucking crazy.
And this is a tame. I say for Terry Funk and him be as bloody as he was, this is a tame match as far as how those spots happened to create that. So I don't know, man.
It's not me. It's not me. I don't want to see a 53-year-old nigga in a death match. That's what it basically comes down to.
I get it. I completely get it.
But also the caveat to that is, he's the best contender to win the fucking match. And that blows my mind, because just thinking about it, like I said, I don't want the drunk to win, and I don't want the dude in fucking cutoff tee and booty shorts to win. Give it to the 53-year-old dude.
Right, and I guess to the casual viewer, I got to think about Paul Heyman's mindset. He's trying to get eyes on his product, so he's trying to attract the casual WCW, WWF viewer that is in the mood for wrestling randomly on this night to buy into this. So he's got to be extra with the extras in that light. As far as Terry Funk, like I said, it's littered all throughout commentary. I can't count on all my all my fingers and toes how many times Joey Styles reminds us this man's 53 years old and wrestling in ECW for this title. To try to build up the prestige around this event that is never spoken about again after this pay-per-view as far as the prestige.
Exactly. So one thing that I needed you to kind of clarify for me, Terry Funk just went through a 20-minute three-way match and won.
I know where this is going. Yes.
And won. Why, before he can even get up from making the pinfall, does Raven come out and start beating his ass for the fucking championship? Like,
because Raven is the heel of heels in ECW. That's why.
Like, this doesn't even make sense. This 53-year-old man just went through a death match. He has gashes all over him. Like, he's not even crimsoned yet.
Nope.
Like, and he's got gashes. He's getting flown in the chairs, getting hit by shit. He didn't even have time to breathe.
Yep.
What the fuck what is this like a ECW norm? Is this a normal thing? Like, they have a tournament and the dude that wins immediately the fucking champion comes out?
This is very unique. It made me chuckle. I mean, this is Raven being like, he's their biggest heel on their roster. So no better way than to make a heel stronger than to have this, again, 53-year-old man battle it out with two dudes, one of which definitely drunk and could probably get a DUI if got behind a vehicle. And
definitely fail a breathalyzer.
Yes,
definitely,
absolutely. And the other, a definite, like, I guess, joke in your eyes. I can't even deny it as far as like the appearance of seeing that, but he's not here for grabs. Stevie Richards is here for straight pop and to make fun of what was the most popular thing happening in wrestling at that time, the NWO, and ride that rub of the NWO. So I get that, but to further build the legend of Terry Funk winning this title and then making Raven lean into his heel presentation was the main two reasons why you saw that happen. But it had to happen, in my opinion. It was just funny to me how quick Raven appears as soon as the 1, 2, 3. You don't even see Sandman leave the ring. It just happens, and you're just like,
everybody is still laid the fuck out.
Yep.
You hear the 1, 2, 3, and then like 2 seconds later, you hear a crowd pop because Raven's coming out, and you're like, "Oh my fucking god, you got to do this right now!" Like,
let me give you some. I'm gonna pause this right there because there's the reason why that also could have happened is this pay-per-view ran way over, and Paulie was worried about the big moment not getting on pay-per-view, and it almost didn't happen. And that's why that match, if you think of that match, also again, kid brain, I'm thinking that he fought him for a long time and then won.
It's like 7 minutes.
Right, exactly. So I think what was happening, because if I remember correctly from the documentaries and stuff about Barely Legal 97, is they were fighting to try to get the end of the pay-per-view on pay-per-view, because at that time, when you order a pay-per-view, it's over at 11 o'clock, no matter what's happening. WCW were victims of this a couple different times. The biggest egregious version of it is when Halloween Havoc 98, when Goldberg fought Diamond Dallas Page and the entire match didn't make it on pay-per-view, and they had to show it for free the next night on Nitro.
I remember that.
So that's how strict the pay-per-view companies were around their time slots. So Paulie knew this. They were fighting to make sure that ending got on that show. So I think that's why, like, because you see the match, the three-way dance is a match. Like, they are in there for at least 15 minutes. And then that quick Raven match, it just doesn't sit well with me. I get why it doesn't sit well with most people because of the way it was presented, but it's needed if they're going to try to sell this show at the end the way they do with Terry Funk defying the odds and becoming a 53-year-old champion in Extreme Championship Wrestling, which is that's what they were selling the whole time in their minds.
I get what you're trying to sell. The shit just doesn't have any appeal to me. And then especially to cap it off, the weird ending with the Raven match, 7 minutes, he just comes out, starts beating his ass. There's fucking weapon spots, table spots outside, like fucking Tommy Dreamer spot, all this shit. And I'm just like,
yeah,
where did all this come from?
Thank you for bringing up Tommy Dreamer, by the way. Continue your thought.
Yeah, Tommy Dreamer is on, if we didn't mention it, Tommy Dreamer is on commentary for the entire three-way dance, correct? All the way up until the end of the pay-per-view.
Oh, yeah.
And then he gets attacked by Big Dick Dudley.
Yep.
Is it?
Correct.
Yeah, and then he gets attacked by Big Dick Dudley.
It gives Big Dick Dudley one of the worst choke slams through a table, a.k.a. pushed him off the stage, basically. That was sloppy.
Yeah.
I was not happy about that.
I mean, there was a lot of things that were sloppy with this match. I mean, from that spot, the ref bumps, Terry Funk in general, it added to what's the opposite of mystique?
I guess telegraphing it would be the opposite. And
I get, that it gave me the complete opposite feeling of like good mystique to a match.
Yeah,
it gave me like bullshit. What the fuck is happening? And I get where Paulie was trying to go. Time constraints happen and things like that, which led to a 7-minute match, but fell flat in my opinion. Fell flat.
Watching it back, I cannot deny that. I don't remember that being that flat. And then maybe they show more like on the Hardcore TV episode of like the celebration after that. But yeah, to your point, it was kind of just like, man, like Terry Funk's your champ. Good luck, old man. The whole locker room's after you. There you go, man. So
there you go. You got a big ass target on your 53-year-old fucking back.
So I mean, as far as that pay-per-view goes, Terry Funk wins the last match after getting and he wins via small package since Tommy Dreamer came in and interfered. Dreamer on commentary, awful. They should never had him doing that. I understand why they thought it was a good idea because of the heat with Raven and Raven having this match, he could create more heat, but Tommy Dreamer, I'm sure don't even want to, like, I don't know. I'm sure if he watches that back, he's probably cringing as far as like how they could have did some things differently there. I'm sure that's not his most favorite ending because they could have done a lot more with that. But what are your thoughts?
A lot.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on just the Dreamer aspect of it? We didn't really get into it.
Tommy Dreamer on color is terrible. He could have drew more heat with the whole Raven thing if he would have. I don't know, man. I don't see Tommy Dreamer as like a real talker.
He's never really been. That's why I said I don't know why they put him in that spot. I mean, I get why Paul thought that was a good idea from a feuding standpoint, but from a hey, I'm listening to this right now and I'm chilling and this sounds awful. Why would I want to listen to this? He's got to figure that element out of it to make that more attractive, I say.
Yeah. Yeah, between all the fuck ups between him, I just didn't. They could have left him out of the match completely, and it probably would have gave more time to focus on what you were trying to do. To tell the story between Funk and Raven.
Because if I remember correctly, from this pay-per-view, you get like, of course you get Dreamer and Raven matches, but you get like a Funk 3-way dance with the title, and Funk drops it. He's not champion for long. He does not keep it long. I want to say Raven gets it back. Raven's ECW champion quite a bit in his career. But
I'm not surprised. Paulie loved fucking Raven, man.
He's a great mind. He's a great wrestling mind. Scotty Flamingo knows what the fuck he's talking about. That's why when he was in WWF, he was a booker. Like, he was an agent. Like, they didn't even want him to wrestle. They wanted him backstage because that's how good of a mind he has for wrestling. And the Raven character in general, bro, I didn't appreciate it as much as a kid. I appreciate it so much now because it was so against the grain of what wrestling was, and to have this emo ass character with these grungy ass dudes, and them always trying to cause shenanigans and the what about me, what about Raven shit. Amazing, bro. Like he reinvented himself so many times with Scotty Flamingo. I don't know if you ever saw Scotty Flamingo in action. That would have made me want to create a different character and go completely golf on y'all and fucking sad bastard, because Scotty Flamingo was tough to overcome. He was a manager that dressed wild as far as like pastels and shit. That's how they had Raven dressed. Let's Google that. Google how he used to wear like Hawaiian shirts and shit like that. Not Raven.
That's funny.
So much respect to him from that aspect. But like I said, kind of put a pin in this pay-per-view. Outside of letter grades, I kind of wanted to get a discussion on this point with the different talking heads around old school wrestling, what I consider old school, anything 2007 and before, in my mind, especially after looking at it, getting a better idea of what was happening in that time frame. ECW is a very, especially ECW coming back in that bubble of time, ECW has a big like polarizing thought process or polarizing thoughts about that product. Like, you get your diehards that are like, give me more, I don't care what it is, I want more, damn it, it's violence, it's cursing, show your tits, she's a crack whore, give me all of it. And then you got other people who are like, this is not wrestling, this is trash, this is made the sport less of a sport and more of just a freak show. And then to continue those arguments in today's wrestling, you can argue that ECW is a reason for a lot of the negative AEW gets as far as how they wrestle and the safety that they kind of, some of the talent can have a lack thereof for, because they're just trying to get on, and that energy comes a lot from this. That's what all these guys were doing. They're all trying to get on, and Paulie selling them a dream anytime before they hit that curtain. And that's where the controversy lies in ECW, I feel like. So I'll ask you, do you think ECW is something that the wrestling culture needed to continue the progression of the product itself? Or do you feel like ECW was detrimental to the growth of pro wrestling and kind of put a black eye over it because of where people go with wrestling content now and that kind of stuff, just being more about the violence and stuff like that versus the wrestling? So tell me, man, tell me your thoughts on that.
I only feel like it's a black eye for people if you're one of those guys that cares about shit that has nothing to do with you.
Big facts.
So I personally don't like deathmatch wrestling. I don't like that shit at all. It's not me. Like, if I was to go to an event and there's a match, cool, I'll watch it. But if there's a death match on like TV or pay-per-view that people talk, I'm not gonna watch it. It's not me.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like it left a black eye. I feel like it was definitely detrimental to where wrestling needed to go because all these other people started borrowing from ECW. Mm-hmm. And they did revolutionize the death match, other than I forget what Japanese promotion it is that did like insane fucking death matches.
It wasn't Noah, was shit. It?
I don't think it was Noah. If I'll look it up after this.
Okay. Yeah, no big deal.
Show you. Insane. But other than that, man, I'm not a big deathmatch guy. ECW didn't leave a black eye on anything. It probably did for some people. If, like I said, if you're a person that cares about things that have nothing to do with you, if it's not your type of wrestling, don't watch it. If it's not your type of wrestling, don't fucking watch it. Like, if you don't like strong style Japanese, don't watch NJP. If you don't like fucking independent type wrestling, don't watch all the, Deadlock and Gorilla Pro and all that shit, man. I mean, stick to what you fucking like.
I agree. Absolutely. Like what you like, bro. With that being said, I think that there's an argument to be made about how ECW is detrimental to wrestling, but me personally, I don't see it. At least I can.
You don't see how it's detrimental.
I can see it. I mean, as far as like the long-term aspect, because if that's I come from this type of mindset, like let's say ECW never existed and somebody else started popularizing the whole aspect of extreme wrestling, because I wouldn't even consider a lot of this death match stuff. You get some death match things happening in some matches, like the three-way dance, for example. That was probably the most death matchy we saw all night. Outside of that,
oh yeah,
it was more like WCW cruiserweight vibes or silly ass gimmicks. So there were some good graps, and there was some good graps, right? In there.
So
that's where that's kind of where I can't die on the ECW's just they fucked up everything, because they diversified it, at least in the original product. It wasn't all that, like it wasn't all just pure violence all the time. Yes, it's a violent product when you look at it compared to the other guys around that aren't like the more strong style suited wrestling outfits in Japan. But like, as far as what a wrestling product is trying to give you, like, they didn't just give you one thing. I'm just speaking to this card, which in my opinion kind of represents what was happening with ECW in general. It's a bunch of different kinds of storylines that have some different things going on, similar but different. But they didn't just give you one type of thing, in my opinion. It's just all of it, all the different they gave us was just the extreme versions of it, no pun intended. More or less just around like just cursing and how carry yourself when you watch this product. So I can see the argument being made why it took away just the old school nature of kayfabe wrestling, but also I feel like we needed this to show us what wrestling could be, but also in a good and a bad light too. Because like I said, you can have too much of a good thing. And if this is the only kind of wrestling you watching, you probably have a very skewed aspect on the free market of things to look at. So it's some thoughts to be thought. It's to just kind of put a pin in that. And I'll ask you this in closing, Sean, what would you give letter grade wise on Barely Legal 1997?
C+.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a C+. And the reason I give it a C+, the showcase was decent. The rush of Terry Funk, I'm just gonna be frank here, Terry Funk dampens the score a lot for me.
That's so wild to me, man. He kind of brings it up for me.
It's the story is just not hitting home with me. It's
forced, because why would you care?
I don't, and it's like, I don't know. I even see myself in the time if I'm watching this. I don't know, man. I just don't see myself seeing 53-year-old Terry Funk with Sandman and Big Stevie Cool being like this big triumphant thing. Like, all right, you beat a dude in booty shorts and an alcoholic.
So bad.
All right.
But he's 53.
And then at 53, and then you went and you did a table spot, you got your ass whipped, and then beat the champion with a fucking roll up.
Man.
Okay. And then the pay-per-view ends. Like, to me, the best match on this card was Sabu and Taz by fucking far.
Yeah.
That's the best card, or the best match on this card. By far. It had everything in a wrestling match. It had the graps, it had the storytelling, the entrances, the promos, with the packages before and shit like that. The ending.
It was a complete match. I give you that.
It was a complete match.
Even with shenanigans happening, it was a complete match, which is not easy to do.
If you would have placed, like, I don't know, if you would have placed, say, the Terry Funk, the three-way in more of the middle-ish of the card, and then had Funk at the main event, that would have worked.
Yeah. But
having the three-way straight into Raven and Funk was kind of weird. So I think the pacing of the card kind of threw it off for me. And then the believable, like, I couldn't suspend my disbelief. I don't know. I couldn't do it. Just not with Big Stevie Cool and fucking Sandman and 53-year-old Terry Funk. I'm sorry, I couldn't do it, man.
I'm sorry, bro. I'm sorry to hear that. I guess you had to be there at the time to really kind of appreciate a little more. And with that said, my letter grade of barely legal 97 is going to be more of the B minus, strong C plus, very questionable B minus. Like I said earlier, I came into this very rosy colored nostalgia glasses being worn around the feels and such, and the feels are there, don't get me wrong, especially because, like I said, probably more of my grade is up there because I got to see the OG version, which ups it in my eyes, but it also showed me some blemishes. Like to shout out to E-Ray on last week's episode of BA show when he was describing the pictures I sent him from our first Airbnb. Yeah, it's like you're taking pictures of like a murder scene or somebody getting some sort of operation done, because you're just getting like pieces and parts of things, not the full thing. So yeah, man. With that said, B minus I thought was appropriate. Perfect place to put this show. And like I said, first ever pay-per-view. So this not gonna be perfect, but it was nowhere near by any means like bad or anything like that. The shit we watched for New Blood Rising, that
shit was bad.
No, these guys are trying, and and that's another thing. I'm convinced now, seeing guys trying to work and get paid, that yeah, like it's no way in heck like around the whole just ECW like being just a better product in general, like versus bigger shows. And this is more the Vince era WWE before I say this. Like, people obviously not putting their all into what's happening on camera. They're just trying to keep themselves safe and move on. Not happening as much now in the Trips era, but definitely reminded me of like, yeah, this is passionate fucking wrestling. This is what this shit's supposed to look and sound like and feel like. So yeah, man. In closing, that is the BA show, Barely Legal 97. Anything else, Sean, you want to add on before we get up out of here, man? Blow this popsicle.
Nah, man. I encourage anybody that hasn't seen it to go and get the archive online.
Archive.org. Type in ECW Barely Legal 97 and your socks will be blown off for all the right and wrong reasons.
It's free. The player's a little buggy, but it is free. So go and watch it. Let us know what you think about it, basically. Because I thought I was going to enjoy this. I enjoyed it a lot. I thought I was going to rate this a lot higher than I actually did.
Hey, the card had to play out. Because I know when you cut it on and you see that crowd going insane, you're like, yeah,
fucking insane. I love good wrestling crowds. Good wrestling crowds are like,
that's Philly.
That's what makes a show to me. That's what makes a show to me is good wrestling crowds.
And you get that consistently from this whole era from ECW until they close their doors. The fans genuinely appreciate it, especially this Philly crowd, which makes me wonder more about just how WrestleMania 40 is going to be in a city like that getting WrestleMania, how turnt they about to be. So definitely some things to get excited for as we get ready for that WrestleMania 40. But yeah, as we said, another one, episode 12 in the books of the BA show. Guys, this is a great evening. Man, BA is whooped. BA has gone through the ringer. He was in Detroit. He's been quantum leaping his ass off. The DeLorean needs to go to the shop. BA is tired. So with all that being said, as far as where y'all can find me, normal places, you already know, every Friday, let me book the territory with the fellas, A-Dub and E-Ray. BA will be taking a little short hiatus, as I mentioned. BA's tired. I'm out here trying to accumulate all the designations, all the random letters to put after my full name, and kayfabe, so to speak, and also in work and shoot vision as well. So that's happening here. You already know, not missing any of the BA shows. We will still coming back here in a couple weeks, back to our normal every other Wednesday schedule. So yeah, man, and that's the place you can find me. As far as recent guest appearances, recently I was on an episode of Embrace the Turn Up with the good old Tribal Pod Chief A-Dub. We talked not wrestling, a lot of current event stuff, so you can hear my mind and Dub's mind, talking about the Montgomery Brawl, booking that out in typical Let Me Book fashion, but then we kind of switch gears into some college football. What is the state of that? Where's the money going? I go on some huge rants about Mark Emmerick. If you want to hear me call out an old white man numerous times, a great episode to hear that energy. And then outside of that, man, y'all already know BA can be found just at Let Me Book Pod everything. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If y'all see vulgar or scantily clad women getting attention, that is not me. That are the fellas doing what the fellas do. Probably A-Dub, because he is the streets, as he will proudly tell you. Outside of that, you can't find me anywhere in these streets but in front of this laptop that I'm about to be in front of for this exam I gotta take for the job.
Facts.
The homie Sean, where can these good listeners find you, my friend?
Just go to Fourth Rope, man. You'll probably find me other places from there. It'll link you to the Let Me Book Pod, and then I'm tagged in Instagram and other places.
Yes, sir.
Not gonna get that one out right now, but if you happen to find it, then so be it.
Hey.
But yeah, man, that's the only places.
Man, that sounds sneaky. Sounds like a treasure hunt or scavenger hunt for your listeners. So if y'all can find the real IG for Sean, comment on there on our Spotify page for Let Me Book the Territory, Apple Music. We really trying to get our likes and shares up. Our listenership has legitimately skyrocketed since we've gone to SummerSlam. So if y'all could let us know, first time listeners, how we're doing, this show, the main show, all of our collaborations to come up in the future on other shows, let us know, because we don't want to suck. It's period, point blank. So with all that being said, in the words of the great poet Sean Carter, may the best year today's be the worst year tomorrow's. Let the madness wash all over you, and everything is motherfucking wrestling. Peace out.
Ooh, yeah.